last breaths of his loved one. And the guys take off.
Asha, or what's his name?
Asha, yeah.
Asha.
They also, if you notice, they take his wedding ring, they mug them to make it look like a mugging.
Yes, I noticed that.
Not planned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a random act. Really quick, during that whole time, there was a police drone watching the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting. I know we're going to get there. That the detective said, and even they noticed too. We're being watched, and he takes his face off, and he's like, I don't give a fuck. I have to do this, and he kills her or whatever. But she did say that in the future, there's some people that can actually firewall and make your face blurry to the actual.
Because he says everyone has. He says we all have chips in our fillings.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
Can track us. Basically, everyone's tracked now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way to lie about where you've been. But there are people who you can hire, or if you can do it yourself, you can hack your.
They can build a firewall around
that chip and make you basically invisible.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a pretty detailed part right there.
Because that's some real shit right there.
And you have to put that kind of detail interwoven in a story like this to keep people from talking shit.
Loopholes.
Like, but blah, 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 blah. You gotta cover your tracks for those detractors out there.
Yeah, especially without the timeline. So that helps it out a lot.
Yeah, I like that there's no clear timeline.
Yeah, that was one of the main things. Yeah.
Distant future, I would say, because there's some things that are still the same, and then there's this
not too far from now, right?
Yep. So, I can't remember what happens after.
He wakes up 3 months later, and that's when Aaron shows up, and he's like, "Hey." He kind of says,
pitches him this,
He's like, STEM can fix you, but it has to be done in secret. Do you want to do it? And he's like, no, not really. And he's like, what would your wife want you to do? And then he kind of just walks away, and then I think
he plants that seed for sure.
Yeah,
because he knows. Because basically,
eventually, it's going to get to him.
Gray, after he's injured, he wants to die.
Yeah,
because he's lost everything in his.
He tries to commit suicide.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
overdose
coming up.
Morphine or something.
My bad. Jumping ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, Aaron comes and propositions him, and then he's like, and then he does it.
Yeah.
So we see him have the surgery and implant STEM, and then the basically it's like his body is. He gets his, how do you say, like
motor functions
back. Wiggle your big toe.
Yeah.
He's you kind of see his limbs crumpled up, like if they've been asleep or unused. So he gets up and he starts to walk again, and he's amazed, and he throws the arm things, and then that's when he tells him, like, hey, I need you to have total. To keep this under wraps, like this has to be 100% secret. And he makes him sign disclosure saying, I'm not going to tell anybody about this. And he still has to pretend he's a quadriplegic, which is hard.
So then, when Gray gets home, he shuts down his home computer that's supposed to help him out with everything, because his apartment now is
friendly,
futuristic.
Yeah.
So he shuts that down, and then he immediately goes over and starts digging into the case files of all these people that he think might be connected to the murder of his wife and that whole thing. And then we're introduced to STEM as a voice.
Yes.
Where basically STEM is like, I'm interconnected with you. Like, I'm here. I can help you out.
Yeah, and he thinks he's going insane. He thinks he's fucking losing it. It really reminded me of HAL from Space Odyssey 2001, where it has the talking. talking personality robot, and kind of controls everything and doesn't let humans
I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't let you do that, Dave. I'm sorry, I can't let you do that.
I just went and watched that in for the 4K version.
Really?
In AMC.
That movie's a trip, dude. I can't. That's a whole nother podcast.
But yeah, it was definitely
Tribute to Hal.
yeah.
I totally picked up on that. That or Baymax from Big Hero 6. But yeah, so we get introduced to the voice, and he figures out he can only hear him, and he can't read his thoughts. He can't.
Logan Marshall Green, the actor, he has to speak out loud for STEM to hear him.
He has to give him access, right?
And he wants to show him something that he's seen in the surveillance drone video that he doesn't see with his human eye, but STEM can see it. So he points out that he shot his wife with no gun. You don't see a gun. You just notice that he has the fucking hand cannon going through his arm. And then he also points out, is at the same time he points out the tattoo?
The tattoo,
guy?
Yeah.
The guy has a tattoo.
And it's from the drone. So STEM had reached out and grabbed the drone footage that it had recorded, where we see that in the beginning of the film too, and that's where he notices the tattoo and that the hand cannon thing that Gray didn't notice initially in the footage.
Yeah.
And we forgot that we're right before he has the STEM operation. We meet this detective lady, who's kind of put on his case, who he really doesn't take seriously. He's like, you haven't gotten anywhere. It's been so many months, and you literally have no real leads. Whatever. Gray's not a big fan of her.
Yeah, she's a homicide detective, just doing her job basically.
But she ends up being kind of a key part of the film later on. So,
yeah.
Anyway, she's there. What happens next?
He actually goes.
He reads the tattoo, and it kind of it's a military tattoo that
gives you everything.
Computers can read. Basically, it's like an ID.
It's like a scan bar.
Yeah,
a barcode.
It tells you your blood type, where you live.
Gray couldn't read it, but fucking STEM could.
Yeah.
So he had him because STEM can just basically
draw anything.
He can just control anything, and so he just says relax, and he draws it himself, and he points out all this shit, and so he basically finds him within the first 10 minutes of him being active in his brain.
Yeah, and then he goes to the guy's house,
still disguised as a quadriplegic.
Yeah. And that's when he runs into
one of the first guys.
One of the first guys, yeah. Because
I can't remember his name.
He's watching the house. Berserk,
he was also a big part of it, right? Towards the ending.
Eric Servon or
Yeah.
Servion, or I can't remember his last name.
Turk. Yeah, it was Turk.
But what was his last name?
It was like
because he's actually
he's Kip's brother.
There you go. He's related to the main Nazi guy. That's his brother.
Yeah, that's right.
So you figure out they were in the military.
Cirque. I'm sorry, Cirque.
Cirque. That's their last name.
Cirque, yeah.
Turk Cirque. So he's snooping around in his house because he notices that he leaves. So he leaves, gets out
there's a fucking shit ton of pills and stuff. And this guy's an obvious addict or a dealer.
Something. I think he was a dealer, to be honest, because anyways, he breaks into his house and he's looking at all this crazy shit and trying to figure out what, he's looking around, and STEM tells him, we gotta have a plan because he hears him coming back. And so he's just standing there and they start getting into a scuffle.
I like how he tells him, when he first goes in the house, he says, "Take off your shoes."
Oh, that's right.
And then they start, he starts snooping around, and he's like, "Oh, go hide in the corner behind the bookshelf."
Yeah.
And then STEM knows that they have the element of surprise, and he says, "Act now. You have,
you have the upper hand.
You have the upper hand."
Yeah.
And he
He tries
pushes out because he's like he's a real person, so obviously you're going to be scared to
react
or do anything.
And plus, he was just paralyzed for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So, imagine coming out of that. But
trying to fight people.
and plus, you notice when he does attack the guy fucking jujitsus him like nothing,
Because he sees his reflection in the TV behind him.
And even when he fights, you notice he has some sort of like military combat.
Yeah.
He just handles them.
I think he also had a gun in his palm.
Yeah, he didn't use it though. You notice when he's choking him. Yeah. And then you hear Stem say, I can help you, but you need to give me permission
to operate your body.
And then he says, permission granted.
Yeah. And then he beats the shit out of him. And I think
we all like that part.
That whole part. And then he says, Stem, he's got a knife. He's like, don't worry, we have one too.
We have one too.
And he fucking starts cutting them up.
The part that you pointed out though is pretty funny. Is he's doing all this crazy fight shit, but he's keeping from his shoulders up, his head is just kind of like stationary because his whole body's being controlled, and that I feel like that's pretty hard to do. I can't, do that shit regularly.
Yeah, because the actor in reality when they're shooting this, they're relying completely on him.
Yeah.
The whole movie's success was because of him and how hard he trained to pull off because it's so graceful and fluid looking.
Yeah.
I have no idea, like, how long did it take them to get those right, you know what I mean? Because as short as all the fight scenes are, they look really,
planned out.
Yeah. In depth or whatever, kind of like Atomic Blonde. A lot of those fight scenes were nuts.
It was choreographed really well. It was done really well. But so once he tells Stem to take over, he fucking just demolishes this guy, and he ends up killing him.
Yeah. And he leaves a trail, and he needs to get out.
It's cool because Stem is really smart like that, and tells him to cover up his tracks.
He's like, you need to get rid of every trace of your DNA.
Of your
just murdered
fingerprints.
someone too.
He's like, I don't remember everything I touched. He's like, don't worry,
I can replay that for you.
I can replay every single, everything that you touched in this house since you've been here.
Jeez,
that was pretty cool.
I think that's my favorite kill because he gets the dude's head on his knee with the blade in the dude's mouth and basically Chelsea grins him.
Heath Ledger style.
Yeah,
the Glasgow smile.
Oof.
He kills him with the fucking Michael Myers fucking kitchen knife.
The
too.
butcher knife.
Yeah.
That's a wild kill, dude.
Yeah.
Being the first kill, that sets the tone with what kind of movie that
And
is.
he kind of acknowledges that he's a killing machine. He's a fucking ninja. He's a killing machine, and he just killed somebody, and he fucking pukes. He realizes, hey, I just killed somebody. His first kill on his revenge path.
And Stem's like,
easy, huh?
you need to clean up your tracks, including the vomit in the sink.
The DNA in your sink.
But then,
what happens after that?
That's when he goes back home, right?
Yeah.
Or he's like, Stem's like, or so Grade says, I need a minute to think, and he's like,
Or a second.
I need a second to think. A second has passed, Gray.
Yeah.
Hold on a minute.
He's just too formal for him. It's
I just
hilarious.
I like that. That was one of the little,
Comedic relief. Yeah.
where this guy's
It's like how a computer wouldn't
Stem is
really
computer. He doesn't have
understand
remorse. He doesn't know, like lingo.
It's all straightforward for him.
That we do.
Chill out, dickwad. So he goes back to his house. Is that where his mom finds him?
Yeah. Or,
No.
yeah.
No, that's
No,
way
way later.
Not
The
yet.
detective, she looks back at footage, I think, right? Is that what?
Yeah, the detective notices the footage of him being in the area. So
There's a footprint. That
And a
has,
footprint was found.
What they say, old-fashioned.
It was
motor oil.
Yeah,
From a footprint.
The fucking the dude, the fucking autopsy guy's giving him autopsy, and he notices that there's
The body.
The body has like cables in his chest, and he has the gun, biomechanic in his gun arm or whatever. And then he says that there was a boot that had oil, right? An old school.
It's a boot.
a boot print on the porch.
Okay.
Which is, I'm assuming, from Gray.
Yeah, because he's a motorhead.
And and that's when we see the detective.
She kind of gets that idea that maybe.
So she starts kind of looking, sourcing through the droid footage, and she sees him in his wheelchair
in the area,
rolling down the street
right
at the
outside,
same
right?
minutes before the murder. So she's like, what the fuck is he doing here right as this is happening?
Yeah.
And I think Stam even tells him I think we left one footprint there. He